All right. So if you wanted to talk about exit, whoa, I'm going too many slides. That's for this afternoon. All right. Windows, come on, figure it out. Here we go. Creating exit tickets with forms in AutoCrat. If you haven't gone to the link and you want to, I shortened it. It's goo.gl, lowercase l, lowercase x, lowercase x. No, those are capitals. Sorry. Lowercase l, capital X, capital R, lowercase q, and j. It's right here underneath the title if you want to jump onto that. And we are live right now, so if there's questions from other people, we may be taking those. We'll see.
Millions at home.
Exactly. Yep. Sorry. Want me to stand right here? That's true. I should have to have you fill out a form right before you get online.
Well, they're not going to use them. You might as well say you don't really want somebody all your time.
Oh. You know, there are some people willing to go viral and others.
Where does that takes us
to this?
to? And it's on that.
Yeah.
Did you say that's an L? Is that
I
an
just
L?
want to make sure I wasn't lost.
I think so.
Before the X's.
I believe so.
If
it's not-
get
Okay, all right, yeah. Then it's a lowercase l. Sorry.
I know. Well, this site, Gap Peak Sessions, which we got meeting. I'm assuming that site is not going away. And each one of those pages has a link. Here, it opens up in the page.
So while people are getting there, let's just show of hands. How many people use exit tickets currently?
Are we talking about digital ones?
I didn't say that. Okay, we see the importance in it, right? Quick, informal kind of ways. Obviously, you can use them twofold, right? The first one is sort of to figure out where the students are and maybe individual feedback. And the other one is really to kind of see about your teaching and what you might need to do or slow down, speed up, depending on where the kids are at, right? For those of you who are using exit tickets, what's some of the methods that you use currently?
Index card.
Okay.
I have a chart when the kids get a sticky piece of response to something, they put it on their number, so they're all in.
Okay.
Thumbs.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I call and respond to it.
Yep. What was that? I'm sorry.
It's 5.
It's the 5. Quick little dipsticks, right? Nothing that's going to take a lot of time. And I think that's the huge important part. If the technology ends up slowing this process down for you, don't use it. There are also probably 35, 40 different ways to create digital exit tickets. I'm only really going to talk about one. And if this one's too overwhelming for you, you may want to look at some others. Jeff was talking about Flipgrid. There's Socrative, which is an app on the iPad or phones that's quick, easy feedback. Interactive whiteboards had clickers that attach to them. You can text in your votes. There's poll everywhere. There's all kinds of ways to do it. You can even do today's meet and have that be the exit ticket. You could set up a Google Voice and record your voice as the message of what the exit ticket question or prompt might be. Kids have to call into it. I mean, there's numerous ways to do it. What I'm going to show you just uses Google Forms, which the first time you go through it's a little clunky. It may take you a little bit, but then once you have one, you can do file, make a copy, and just change the one question every time. And that's where you'll speed up the performance. And again, hopefully this will help you get going quicker. So let me screen share here for a second. Thanks. Oh, behave. All right. So now that I'm on the dock, and I can kind of forget about that for a little bit, unless there's questions. What I thought I'd do is flip up what we would normally do as teachers, right? With teachers, we'd do the lesson, and then we'd do the exit ticket at the end, and the kids would walk home. By the way, I forgot to ask this. With your exit tickets, do the kids get to see responses?
Each other's.
Sure.
Depends on the method.
Right. So, Beth, back to your question, or back to your point about the index cards, and Deb with the sticky notes. Where do they go? Just to you? Is there value, I guess, in the kids seeing the whole from the exit tickets in certain places?
Yes.
Okay.
With the sticky, if you want others to see it, you have the sticky side on this side. If you don't.
Gotcha. So it's a choice for the students.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that. So sometimes, though, you'd want the whole class to look at it, and sometimes you just want that feedback, right? The beauty of Google Forms is that the responses go to a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet can either be shared individually to the whole group or not at all, kept private just to you. So that's kind of why I like to use this method. Again, it's not the only one. If it's not for you, don't use it. But like I said, usually you do a lesson, then you do the exit ticket at the end. We're going to flip it up. I'm actually going to have you take an exit ticket, and then we'll do the lesson on how I got there. Make sense? So if you're on that document, if you go down to the third up from the left, the sample exit ticket, you can click that, and that'll take you to a Google form that please fill out. The Google form is meant to be tricky, so don't feel overwhelmed or frustrated by it. It's sort of geared toward helping you understand maybe what a kid might see for a form or an exit ticket if they didn't understand the material during the day. The sample exit ticket, it's the third one up from the bottom.
Why do I want to get a 100%?
Give people a few more minutes to finish.
Looks like a glass was honestly that. That's awesome. Cool.
If you've completed the quiz, if you haven't done so already, you might want to check your email.
I just did.
Why won't we read that?
Did you have to say send me a copy of my slides?
Give it a minute, though. You might not
I
be.
got it.
I know Ricky.
Yeah, mine's not at all.
Giant thing.
Welcome to take this chair further back if you want. I don't. Is there any chairs in the back at all?
Go grab one.
You can use this one. It's fine. I'm not going to sit. Yep. Absolutely.
Oh.
Am I open the wrong box?
I didn't have no.
Check your spam, Katie, just in case.
Yeah.
All right, I'll double check it and I'll show you what may have happened.
Sure.
Okay, so if you didn't get it, and that's okay, it'll probably come a little bit later. What should have happened upon submission is it went through a process where it dumped everything into a spreadsheet. I'll show you that in a second. But what you received, or as the user, you would have seen the front face of the form that you clicked. It should have automatically collected your name. If you didn't sign in, it should have said, can you sign in? Most of you are already signed in because you've been in. When you click submit, it just bounced back, and then I had something trigger this feedback form. So if you're like me, you got this email, and I'll diagnose problems in a second. But inside the email was a little attachment, which is just a Google document. and I received something where it said, here's your exit ticket. All right. Now, if you did, how many people got this? Okay, fair amount. You all should. So we'll see what happened here in a second. It might just be on a delay. Okay. What it did though is it comes through and it shows you what you answered. And in this particular feedback, it didn't give you the correct answer. It gave you resources to go find it. Okay. This is completely customizable. You could actually have it kick out the real answers. You could have it kick back whatever you needed for feedback. At the end of today, even when you go to vote on the best demo slam, all you're going to get is a PD certificate with 2 free subscriptions for just being here. So it doesn't have to necessarily even have anything to do with your answers. Quickie forms, and then feedback created with an add-on that I'll show you in a second. Besides the fact that you may not have gotten the email, does anybody have questions about that overview?
How do you know, like, we were just saying, how do you got it wrong? Would they know where to go if I right?
Remember, I this completely. I didn't want to give you the options. I could have. You answered. Here is the correct answer.
It does tell us what our answer was. Super quick. Much day you want to have a conversation with your teams because you need to adopt it, not individuals. If you go that route and show you the differences. If I'm in Google, this is where check off those 2 boxes with your students, you have to make sure they give you their email address. Eric, when you just said the push out, can our kids get it?
Can your kids get it?
Like with their email? Like right now, they don't do anything with their
Right.
email.
So K to 4 doesn't have Gmail turned on, so the notification wouldn't come through. But by providing the email address, it would go to their Google Drive.
Okay, so.
And in 3rd and 4th grade, you may want to look at Google Classroom as the way to do the notification part. 5 through 8 has closed Gmail, so it works in-house but not out-of-house, and 9 through 12 it's wide open, just because of policies and ages. So then what I did was I just created the form. So this is where I titled the form. If there's any description, that's fine. When I go to create a choice, I have text, paragraph, multiple choice, checkboxes, choose from a list, a scale, a grid. Good Lord, there's a lot of stuff. Keep in mind, just like any automated flow, if you do plan to have this graded some way with either Flubaroo or Super Quiz or something like that, even conditional formatting, it's not going to work well with paragraph text. That's one where the human actually has to read it and provide some feedback, right? There's no automated, whoa, that paragraph summed up exactly what I wanted you to say. Google's not quite there yet. And hopefully never is, because then that might be reading a little too much into what we do. But a short text, keep in mind it has to be spelled correctly. There's ways that you can say, okay, the answer is, and it could be like these 4 other methods as well. But if it's not one of those, it's wrong no matter what. So keep in mind before you do that. Multiple choice, of course, and check boxes, even choose from a list, that you can automate because there's a right and wrong answer, right? So what I did was I just created a bunch of questions. And we'll skip through all that, and that's how you just keep adding more and more items. And at the very bottom, this is kind of important too, you have some options. Show link to submit another response. Well, if you're doing exit tickets, do you really want kids to submit 2? Probably not. In some cases, you may want to share the results with the kids. This would probably be, though, when you want to make it anonymous. This is not when you want to collect their data, right? This would be, okay, I just want to see how many kids understood, you know, your understanding of this. So fill out the form, and I'm going to broadcast the results as a whole right here. So you see all the results, no names are attached. Sometimes there's power in that.
Could you use that option, like, I mean, the way that you had it set up, if people answered the questions wrong, it gave them resources to go find out what the right answer would be. But if you left that as an option, could the kids who then didn't get all of the questions right on the exit ticket kind of follow up with, you know, that would be almost automatic. You didn't actually answer the questions right, so go find out what the right answers are, or at least attempt to find out on your own and submit a second response to kind of correct those errors. You could use that way.
You can't use that by itself that way, but that in conjunction with one of the other grading add-ons, you certainly can do that. Yep. And then the last one with allow responders to edit responses. Sometimes you want that exit ticket done, get out of here, you already answered. Sometimes it's like, well, wait a second, I just thought about that 5 minutes down the hall, and now I'd read, and that might be okay with you to say, yeah, now that you've thought about it for 5-10 minutes, is there something else? And then some people say, well, I don't want it to go too long because then they're going to go Google the answers, and you know, we're not grading this portion usually, right? This is informal.
Could you use it pre and post?
Sure, absolutely. Yep, enter an exit ticket, right? Any questions about the form itself? I know I breezed through that, but I didn't want to spend a ton of time on form because we want to talk about the back end of it. All right, awesome. So let me go back just in case this is reloaded. Hey, all right, kind of. All right. I want to get rid of that one and that one. Close some of these crazy tabs. Let's go back to response sheet and see what you responded to. All right. So here was all the responses, and I'll keep the names off to the side for a second. So what I get is a spreadsheet. Now, that's not ideal, right? Because when you're looking at things, it's kind of messy, especially if people are typing more and more. But this is what it dumps everything out into. What I can do is I can click on add-ons inside of any spreadsheet, but it's really important within forms because that's where you're collecting data from kids. Add-ons is sort of like Chrome apps and Chrome extensions, except it only works inside of Drive. So the add-ons that I am now looking at only apply to sheets. Similarly, if I was in a document and I clicked add-ons, they're only add-ons for docs. If I was in forms, it would only be add-ons for forms. Okay? There's very rare cases where the add-ons work for 2 different things. And most of the time when you're thinking forms, there's a couple add-ons that we'll talk about later today that are great with forms, but most of it's in the sheets because you want to manipulate the data. Manipulating the form, there's only a couple options that you want to do. Okay? But if I go to add-ons, this is where I can do a lot of different things. The one that I use is called AutoCrat, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Basically, it's a mail merge. It allows me to create a templated Google Doc, take information from here, mask it onto the document, and then mail it out to the individuals who've submitted the data. Sounds like a lot of work, and it is the first time. But again, file copy is your best friend. The minute you get one of them down, file copy means you can, one exit ticket just became 45 for the year if you really wanted it to be, with a quick little manipulation of 1 or 2 questions. Even if it's the thumbs up, thumbs down, that question could always be there, right? And then the 1 or 2 follow-ups could be what was new this week or today or last month.
Did you have to put all those add-ons on?
I did, yes. Yep. Unlike extensions, there's no limit suggested for add-ons because they only work when you choose it to work on a specific document. So if I choose AutoCrat right now, I'm telling AutoCrat to work on this one sheet only. It's not working across all sheets. It's available to me on all sheets now, but it doesn't work until you launch it. So you could have 45,000 add-ons. I wouldn't, but you could. And it's not going to do anything performance-wise, whereas extensions like I have at the top, that's why my tabs aren't opening. Okay? One of the things that Jeff was just talking about too is how can I get that to grade for me and then maybe make some decisions. Like if the person got it wrong, there's the information. If they got it right, you don't need that information, but maybe you just want a couple extension questions. You need it to be auto-graded for you somehow. Flubaroo is one of the easiest ways to do that. And then Super Quiz, like I said, is the really crazy one. And I can show more about that later this afternoon. But that's the one that you really want to kind of be with a team to work through some of that. Because the data is so expansive that it only makes sense if you work together on it rather than individually. There's a lot of other things here that I'll talk about later on, but those are the two that would basically do that. Okay. So like I said, we're going to look at AutoCrat. So if I go to AutoCrat and launch, and if I didn't have AutoCrat already, like you may not, if I click on add-ons and get add-ons at the bottom, that takes me to the add-ons store of Chrome. A little confusing. It's not the App Store. It's not where you buy or get extensions or themes. It's the add-ons for Google Sheets because I'm in a sheet.
I'm just a little lost because I know how to make a form.
Yep.
I don't know, so I have a form all made up. I don't know how to get to that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I rushed that. I apologize. So I'm on a form, right? Let's pretend it's filled out. It's ready to go. At the top is View Responses. The minute I click that, it goes to the spreadsheet that's now associated with the form. So anything that's filled out in the form dumps to that spreadsheet. And it'll automatically call it whatever the title of the form is, parentheses responses as a default. You can always change it, but that seems to work the best. Good question, Kathy. All right, let me jump back. So if I'm inside of AutoCrat, let's do a new merge job. I won't complete it because that'll screw some things up, but I'll show you what I did. So if I click on new merge job with AutoCrat, I get some options when it loads up. And basically, I'm trying to map things on top of each other. So the first thing it asks me is, hey, does this document that you're trying to do the mail merge or the templated document already exist in Drive, or do you have to create one? It used to be in the script gallery, you always had to have it already created and named correctly and all that stuff. Now it's allowing you to do it all on the fly in one. Again, quite a bit of work the first time, but then the file copy makes it so much easier. So for instance, it also shows some of your previously used templates. So let's say this unit or this lesson is going to go 2-3 weeks and you're constantly checking in with students. You can have the same feedback form kick out to them 2 or 3 times. And maybe the first time, like Jeff said, they got everything wrong and they need everything. And then the second time, oh, they got 2 right, so they only need the last 3 resources or whatever. You could do it that way. So I just went to Drive and I found the document that I wanted, which I believe was called Exit Ticket. Google Ninja. And you're seeing a folder listed right underneath. As soon as I make this mail merge, it creates a folder with the same name associated later. So great for PD certificates because you're all going to get a professional development certificate pushed to you today, but I also get a copy of them all so that if anybody calls later up or leaves the district, doesn't have access to the email, whatever, says, can I get that? I have a copy of everybody's. And you'll have a copy of all of your students' feedback forms as well. So I'm just going to click Exit Ticket Feedback. And of course, I'm not going to see it. There it is. Choose that and select. Now again, this was something I had already created, but I could have created it as well. When you create a mail merge document, what it's trying to do is figure out what needs to be mapped with one another. Okay. So for instance, it's going to show the tag on the left, which is on your document template, which by the way, tags have those little triangles, you know, the carrots on sideways on the sides. So if you open it with 2, put whatever your text is, close it with 2, that's what the tag becomes. So if I go back to the document that I received in the email, oh, I have it right here. So when I put on the template, your answer was, and I had this in my template, right? And instead of script gallery in here, it would have been associated with where can you find apps, extensions, and themes to add to Chrome? Because basically what I did is I mapped the tag from the document to the sheet header. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. All right, let me try.
Our faces look like that.
Anyone? All right, let me back up then. Okay, whoops, wrong one. All right, so let's go to view responses for a second, and we'll call it test form. At the top of your spreadsheet that is automatically generated when you create the form, it lists things that as whatever it is that's being put in there. So timestamp is one I always love because then you can see when the student submitted it. Sometimes you want it during class and all of a sudden you realize somebody submitted it after class. What are they doing, right? Or maybe you want to open this up for a week because it's a practice test before something. Then you can actually set it to be certain weeks and you can check the timestamp to make sure they're being honest with you. The username in this case is going to be the email address because it has to get kicked out to you. But you could just have, you know, first and last name or whatever. And then each question comes up here at the top. Okay? These become your spreadsheet titles. If I go back to my document here, the template that I'm creating, I want to match up with those spreadsheet titles. It's easiest to name it the exact same thing. So if I go back to my AutoCrat generator, I like it this way because when I read the question from the sheet header, which is associated directly with the form, where can you find apps, extensions, and themes to add to Chrome, it matches exactly to the template that I created. Some people don't want to type in all that stuff, so they may say answer 1 is the first tag, and then it associates it with that question. Does that make sense? Sorta? All right. So if I make sure I tag everything correctly, and this will walk you through it so you know, okay, question 1 is going to link to question 1, and that provides the student with the answer, it provides the document with the answer. And I click save. Now I get lots of stuff that looks confusing, right? Now we're coding in the script galleries, and don't get nervous by this. It basically is asking, how do you want to organize this information? Okay, and this is part of the mail merge. So how do you organize it? With file naming conventions, that's on you. Where do you want to see it in Google Drive at the end? You don't have to use what I'm using, but this is just an example. It tags everything that comes in from the form with a $sign in front of it for some reason. That's just the way it's always been coded in the script gallery. So I always start with the $sign username. You know, Jeff Barry sends something in. I want to see Jeff Barry before the document begins, because if he writes to me or emails me or sees me after class and says, hey, do you have that feedback I lost or something? I'm going to search for Jeff Barry. I'm not going to search for exit ticket feedback and scroll through the 175 kids I saw that day, right? It's too time consuming. So I always start with name. A lot of people like last name first, first name second, whatever. And then always try to title it the same as your form. It's kind of my advice. Because if the exit ticket was on Google Ninja, it probably should be in the form submission, right? Otherwise, if I called it something else, I'm going to be searching for a while, especially if it's a year ago, quarter ago, whatever, I'm not going to remember. Everybody okay with naming conventions? Very personalized, but certainly helps an organization. Okay. Select the file you want to create. You can create a Google Doc or a PDF. Well, since we're a Google Apps for Education district, it makes sense to do a Google Doc. It doesn't mean that they'll be able to edit that document and change their answers and things like that. It's theirs at that point, but you still get the copy of what they answered. So you don't have to worry about one being editable and one not. It's just the format you preferred it. And then this I had checked. If it's not checked, your submission looks like this. But since I want the feedback to go directly to you as soon as you submit it, I click on email. Again, it's username because I collected your email. So this was a to box, like who's it going to? It's going to asloan@yorkschools.org because that's what you put in. Otherwise, it doesn't know who to mail the feedback to. Then you have a topic, just like an email, and a body that you can write. You can skip all that if you want. If all you want is the document to go out, just fill out this first portion of the recipient, and the rest is good. Okay? Do you want to include the merged documents? It's usually viewable only. That way nobody can change anything. You know, this is an exit ticket. If you make it editable, that means they're able to manipulate whatever they get on both ends. Sometimes you may want that, but in an exit ticket strategy, probably not, right? And then lastly, there's some advanced settings. By default, the timestamp always comes in, but by default, this doesn't happen. I like that one almost all the time. I wish it was a default. Because by checking that box, run AutoCrat when new forms are submitted, the minute you click submit, it did its whole work and it kicked back the feedback. Hopefully, we'll find out why in a second for some of you. But if I left that unchecked, I have to manually go in at some point to the spreadsheet and say, can you run the mail merge so everybody gets their feedback? Now, if you're a high school teacher or a middle school teacher where you're going to have the same thing block after block potentially, you may not want it to kick out immediately because block 2 students may say, here's my answers to block 3 students. Now, again, this is informal. It's an exit ticket. Probably that's not going to happen. But if you were to use it on a formal assessment, that's probably not the best way. You might want to wait till the end.
Just something to add to that, too, I think is that, I don't work with younger kids, but high school kids, I think in particular, are really want that feedback in that kind of instantaneous way. That's really appealing to be able to submit the answers and then know right off. I had a question too, with regard to the tags, that kind of gives you a library text. You drag those down, or is it you just basically copy it as it's written?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, that way you don't have to try and figure it out yourself. But yeah, they're going to be draggable at some point. They're just still waiting on that coding. Any other questions about how I set that portion up? So I'll save. Uh-oh. I need to do this and then save. So basically what I just told the AutoCrat add-on to do is to map all the answers from the submission on the spreadsheet to a Google Doc template and have an email ready to go so that then when somebody submits it, it's going to kick out. The last thing I need to do is either say preview what it would look like, which I'll do, especially for those of you who didn't get to see it. And I always run a preview first just in case I missed a tag or something didn't go right. What it does is it shows you the very first submission what the preview would look like. Oh, by the way, on anything where you're doing mail merges or quizzing or assessments, you need to have at least 2 submissions first before the kids come in. So take the form twice by yourself the first time. With grading ones, like Super Quiz and Flubaroo, the very first submission becomes your answer key. So you as the teacher want to answer it first so you can say these are the correct answers. And then you need at least 1 more. I don't know why. It should be 1, not 2, but there's that. Then you can hide that column for the sake of what does the whole class get, because obviously that would inflate scores if you got it right every single time, which you should. But this is what the preview would look like. I can then exit, and then I would, I'm not going to now, but I could run the mail merge. Again, lots of steps for the first one. But all I have to do now is file copy, and I've got exit ticket strategies for the rest of the year. All I have to do is go back in and manipulate the questions. Let me exit this for a second. Because the other great thing is inside of the spreadsheet with all of your data, if I scroll over to the right, yeah, see, some of you are not getting, which is weird. But basically what it's showing me is that there's a merged document for these answers. Here's the link so that if I don't want to have to go digging through Google Drive, I can just stay on the spreadsheet and see what people got. The link, oh, yeah, right. And then the timestamp that it got sent. So if somebody says, oh, I never got it. Well, actually, you did. It was at, 10:50 this morning. Double check it. Okay. I'm going to run the mail merge one more time just in case, because it looks like nobody misspelled their email address and you were already signed in. So let me try doing the run just in case. A lot of process, right, when I did the run and launch a new one. But look what happens when I've already created one. So what do I want? I want to just mail merge with that exit ticket. Run merge, that's all I had to do. So, right. So the second time around, that becomes much easier. You don't have to worry about the tagging and all that kind of thing. Unless you're changing the question so much that you'd have to start. But a lot easier. Okay, so it's now going through and looking for the jobs that it missed and is now going through. So those of you who didn't get an email should be getting it here in a little bit. It might have been a hiccup. A lot of stuff there. I apologize for running through that awfully fast. There's resources on that page about how the AutoCrat function works. When you go to add on the AutoCrat, there's a ton of information and videos on how to set it up for each specific one. What I would suggest is start real small. Something like attendance. Were you here today? Check yes or no and see how that works. I mean, literally, And then the second one. Second one was, did you understand or not, right? Yes or no. Can you provide one thing that you learned today? Something very basic. And then the kickback would be, here's what you learned today, or here's what everybody learned. And then they could get a draft of what everybody got. Okay? Yeah, I know. Some of them got it. I don't know. Because of the tabbing thing, there might have been a hiccup in the internet, and I just had to rerun it. Bless you. That could be the only reason. Usually it does, as soon as you submit, you got it. So I'm not sure quite what happened there. So let me back up.
So if they're red, I got it wrong.
No. On this feedback sheet, I didn't tell you whether you got it right or wrong.
Because when you had the feedback sheet up there, it didn't look like it was colors. This one, the answers are kind of red.
I think I changed. Yeah, I think I changed it so that it was obvious what was your answer. But no, I didn't color code right or wrong. And I can go over the quiz if you want to know the real answer.
Because how would you?
Right.
Because
So.
the feedback is right.
Right, if you get it right, there's not other
There's no
resources
feedback?
listed for you to go.
Yeah, like under like
You got it wrong.
You could set it up that way. How I set it up was, no matter what you answered, here's the resources.
Oh, I got one. Yay.
It's still working. For some of you that still don't have it, we still have 5, 6 more jobs, 4 more jobs to go. Give it a second. Okay, so let's take a look at the form, right?
Oh, I did too. Oh, yeah.
Oops, wrong one.
How are you going to know class?
All right, so let's take a look at what I got. Yours should say red next to your answer because I switched it right after I did it to myself because I realized if I started reading this, I wouldn't know what I actually answered unless I really read deeply. For the way I set it up, I pushed it out so that it showed you your answer and gave you resources no matter what. It doesn't tell you whether you got it right or wrong because my theory on this one was I just introduced this stuff. I'm not grading you. I really don't want you to think about that, but there are resources. Now can you go make sure? Did you get it right? You tell me. Or if you believe you got it wrong, here's some resources to go figure out which one's the correct answer. You don't have to set it up that way. You could set it up so that the correct answer or the wrong answer gets kicked out in green, red, however you want. That's just the way I set it up. Does that make sense? Sort of. People are like, why the hell do you do it that way, right? This document is completely customizable before you template. The only thing that it requires is the tagging to work. So it literally could have a picture and then one tag, and that's what gets kicked out. Or it could be 45 pages worth of stuff. I wouldn't go that far. But it could be. And it's anywhere in between.
Is the picture there because that was the picture on the...
No, the picture's there because I put it on the Google Doc. Good question. Yep. Nothing or anything that's on the Google Doc will come out, but nothing gets transferred to the Google Doc. It's a completely new creation. Everything. So I typed and created all of this. This is done just in Google Docs.
Oh, okay.
Yep. You just link it via the add-on. Yep.
So I'm sorry, I missed a step because I was writing stuff way back at that crucial point when you're creating this. When you're ready to create that, you have to just go in separately, create a Google Doc that's got the same information as your exit ticket. And then, because I'm in the AutoCrat right now and clicking new merge job, but it's giving me an error because I didn't create that doc first.
Shouldn't be. There's actually 2 ways to do it. You can do a new form, new doc, and then later through AutoCrat tell them to link, or you can create the new form, start AutoCrat, and when you get to the part where it says what document would you like to do, there should be drive, which means one you've already created, and create, which means now let's go create the template.
So that if I click drive, I can use the form.
Drive is actually, when you click drive in AutoCrat, it's looking for the Google Doc to map everything to.
Right. Okay.
If you click create, you're telling it, I haven't created this document yet that I want to map to. Can I go ahead and do it now? And what I've been told by the Google experts is that when you go to click create in the future, it doesn't happen now, unfortunately, but when you go to hit create in the future, it'll automatically map tags to the document and say, where do you want these tags, which would save you time. It doesn't work yet.
Create example template, I got like invalid.
Really? I'll have to double check that then because, let me try real quick. Everybody get it now?
And in that document, everybody have the same document minus what their answers were?
Correct.
So that's the only thing that was tagged was their answer.
Correct.
And everything else was all the same.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Everybody understood that, right? You all got the exact same document back except for the things that I tagged, which is just based on your responses.
And then at first I thought, wow, that's some great information.
Right. With Super Quiz and with Flubaroo, you can make it kick out information based on whether you got it right or wrong, but with AutoCrat, you're basically just saying map it. Yep. Okay, let me just double check to see if create works for me. Oh, it's broken.
Oh, good. I'm glad I didn't.
It's not you.
Okay.
You know what? They're iterating right now, so
Okay.
give it a day or two and it'll be working again.
Now I don't feel so stupid.
Nope, not you at all. So again, just to kind of reiterate what Beth Switzer said, all of the information on this doc you all got the exact same thing because all I did was a mail merge. I didn't do any sort of auto grading. The only thing that should be different is the part in red that says right after your answer was for each of you. Only because that's the way I had set it up. I didn't want the feedback to tell you correct or wrong. I wanted you to go investigate on your own. Because sometimes I think an exit ticket should just be that. It should be, okay, what do you think? I've now got the information as a teacher. I know where you're all at, right? It's in my spreadsheet. But now this is saying, okay, go figure it out. Was that right or wrong? And I can see who's going to take the time to go back through and double check to see if they got the answer right. And if they didn't, learn more about it and figure it out. You don't have to do that. It takes some work. All right? Anybody want to know what the
I
right?
like that because some of the teaching you might have to do with student-based statement. I wouldn't suggest this would be the only way that you try to follow up.
Right.
But it would be a way to kind of push that out and say, okay, well, you know, prepare yourself with a little bit more background, come back to class, and we can follow up.
Yeah.
Right.
If you didn't answer 14, you probably made this mistake. Go to this website
Right.
and practice.
Exactly. Yeah, so this is immediate, right? I mean, you don't have to follow up with me tomorrow right away. You could go home and you've already got some feedback and resources. Anybody want to know what the real answers were, just out of curiosity?
Yeah.
I kind of figured. We're all teachers, right? So where can you find apps, extensions, themes to add to Chrome? Anybody know what the actual real answer was? The Chrome Web Store, correct. Yep. The script gallery is the old name for the add-ons. That was back when it had to be done through a script. And that's scary to people, right? Script gallery sounds like you got to code and stuff. I don't want to mess with that. Add-on sounds a whole lot cooler. All right, I'm going to add it on and pimp my spreadsheet, right? Google Drive add-ons is exactly what we just talked about. You can add add-ons to Sheets, Docs, and Forms, but the extensions, apps, and themes come out of the Chrome Web Store. Google Play for Education is for mobile devices, so Android tablets and Android phones. Music, movies, book rentals, that kind of stuff. We're not quite there yet, although that will be very interesting in a few years with the elementaries. Number 2, what is the easiest way to record a live video and have it archived on YouTube? Anybody know the answer to that? On air. I'm doing it right now, right? Can you do it with the other options? Absolutely. All those options that were there, definitely that's one way to do it. The easiest, though, for me is on air. I clicked go, start. It's recording right now. I'm not going to edit it at all. And when I'm done, it's already on YouTube. And by the way, it's not a 15-minute stop time. You may notice that when you go to upload to YouTube, you have 15 minutes. That's your end time. Most of our sessions are a little longer than 15 minutes. YouTube has a way to get around it by putting your phone number into your account, and then you have a little bit longer to broadcast. But on air doesn't even require you to do that, so you don't have to link your phone number to any account. Because what I've found is after 2 accounts, it doesn't allow you to use the same phone number anymore. And I've got like 55 accounts, so that doesn't work. Okay? So again, all of them were correct, but the easiest is probably the on air. Number 3, what is the difference between Google Lit Trips and Google Tour Builder? Those of you who were in the session yesterday might know. Say it real loud. Right. So Google Lit Trips takes a book and does character development or, you know, the war path or whatever it is, depending on your curriculum content, and drives right through based on the text. A Google Tour Builder is freeform, right? So you could take your own tour through London, but it would be where you visited, not where Harry Potter went through. Some people are starting to blend them. They're taking a book, they're visiting the actual sites in real life, taking pictures, and then saying, okay, so I'm following the path of a book character, but it's my own. So it's kind of a twofer.
Can I ask a question about that? Because I didn't go to the lit trips. Does the setting have to be real?
If it's submitted on Google Lit Trips, it has to be real, it has to be validated, and the publisher and the author have to say okay. If it's Tour Builder, it's all up to you.
But like a fictional book that takes place in a fictional setting, those aren't on Web Trips.
Right. So both map to Google Maps or Google Earth.
Okay.
And so yeah, if it was in Mars, well, actually you can do that with Google Solar System now. But yeah, if it was something that didn't actually exist,
Yeah.
then you wouldn't be able to do it.
Use like Google Middle Earth.
You laugh. I think it's out there now. Yeah.
The places are real because they use Google Maps, but the story might not be real.
That's correct too. So if it's a fictional story that uses realistic places, you can do it.
Right. Yeah.
But if it's fictional places like Middle Earth or Atlantis, that might be tough. Although it's coming for sure. I don't have time for my real world. Forget that kind of world, right? All right, number 4. Which add-on gives teachers the ability to mass copy from a starter template, share, monitor student progress, and manage grading and feedback for student projects in Google Drive? Whoa. Anybody know that one? It's got the funny name to it. It's Doctopus. Formule's kind of cool. It takes all the information from one form into a spreadsheet, pre-populates the next form. So if you think about things like InfoSnap, right? It's basically that, but a lot better because we pay a lot of money for it. But it takes the information, gives something the information, and pre-populates so that the next person can do it. So if you're a parent of 3 kids in this district, you fill out the form for the first kid, it pre-populates all the information that you don't have to fill out again for the second kid. Formula. Doctopus, it does. So if you create a template, you get the ability to spread it out to everybody where they have to make a copy. You also tell them exactly what the naming conventions are when it comes back to you. Brilliant. You can also attach rubric to it. So if you're doing a written work, a rubric can be attached where both people get to weigh in on how they did, and it shows you where you might have missed things or where you need to evaluate. AutoCrat is that mail merge that we just talked about where it maps everything from a spreadsheet to a doc and then the ability to send it out. And rubric we just talked about as well. Okay. And the last one, what does Google Cardboard do? Anybody know?
I thought that was a joke, but it is.
A lot of people did. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, if you check that out, that is pretty cool. It's not quite it's not amazing yet. It's still in beta stages for sure, but they're trying to make it so that you can take a real field trip somewhere. Let's say you walk down to the pond, and you're looking at the pond, and it's telling you on a sign that this animal life lives here. If you put these on, you get augmented reality. So that you're looking at the pond through the camera lens, but the other lens is going to do some sort of an animation of a fish going by, even if the fish literally isn't there. Pretty cool. I know, right?
So never go on another whale watch where you don't get to see a whale, right?
Right, exactly. Imagine what that does to companies, right? You will see a whale, I guarantee it. It might be on your phone.
Wow.
What's that?
It's really like this.
Google Cardboard is literally a piece of cardboard that fits over your device. But there are apps that work with it. Some are virtual reality and some are becoming augmented reality. The augmented reality stuff, if you start looking at it, is very cool. I actually want to take a group of 3rd graders. Rich Johnson's 4th grade now, sorry, I'm dating myself. 4th grade class goes out to 91 where the Northern Cottontail place is, and he always donates money, and there's trails and things like that. There's a sign that tells you, you know, here's, but you can only fit so much on a sign, right? If you wanted to actually put all the information about it, you'd be blocking your view. Right? It would be web pages and web pages. Well, some people said, okay, so throw a QR code, and then that way you can scan it with your phone and learn more about it. But it would be pretty cool if it kind of looks like a QR code that sets right down, so it's flat. It's a piece of paper you can animate, so it's weatherproof, all that kind of good stuff. But you take your phone or you take your Google Cardboard and you look at it, and the minute it hits that symbol with the app running, the 3D image pops up and you can spin it around and you can make it move so you can actually see the rabbit jumping around. And that's what I would like the students to create, and then create websites or slideshows or videos to accompany the actual physical experience. Pretty darn cool.
I feel like we just walked into the movie Iron Man, and you just like spun stuff around.
You can.
Yeah,
It's
like
pretty crazy. Yeah, it does hurt.
Yeah.
It does.
It's hurt.
I agree. All right. Who has questions?
When's lunch?
Anytime you want to go.
Yeah, but
So who will be available?
I'll be here. Yeah, I'll be here. I'm not going to lunch right away. So.
Well, no, I meant.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For any of this stuff, we're posting constantly. We have a GAFE support site, the tech website, but also any of us physically, hit us up and we will help you. If we don't know the answer, we'll find it or we can guide you to the resources. Yes. Yeah. A lot of people want to know about alerts, right? So we used to pay a lot for help desk tickets. Okay, my printer's broken. I got to fill out the form. That's going to go to the tech person, and it was automated. Well, not really. It went to the director, who then assigned it to somebody, who then had to write back to the person. There's no automation there. That takes 4 people to automate something, right? Well, why pay for it? I created a Google form that basically says fill out the quick information that you know of. That then goes to a spreadsheet. Instead of one person reading the spreadsheet and then assigning it, which takes away the automation portion, why not open the spreadsheet up to everybody who could potentially help? So the entire tech team gets to see the help desk ticket system, which is just a spreadsheet, okay? But if I forget to check the spreadsheet, it may be days before I get to your help desk ticket. That's not fair. So basically what I do is I go up to Tools, and I click on Notification Rules, okay? So with a notification rule, I can say if any changes are made. With help desk, this is not a good idea. Because as soon as somebody's assigned, I get an email. As soon as somebody puts in a note, I get an email. If somebody then writes back, I get an email. I don't need those emails. And you probably don't either with most of your forms. What I like is, as soon as a user submits a form, I get a notification. But if I have 146 people in a day filling out an exit ticket, I don't want bing, 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 right? I may not want the email right away. I may want an email daily digest. Or in that case where you're going to go back and check anyway, you may not want the notification at all. But basically, I just say, all right, this is my typical default selection. Tools, notification rules, a user submits a form, give me an email digest. At the end of the day, I get to figure out who may have problems. With help desk tickets, we're doing right away because we want to make sure we get to you as soon as possible. So as soon as somebody fills out a help desk ticket, the entire tech staff gets a quick email that says, here's what they filled out, go to the form, who wants it? And if nobody takes it, I assign it then, but it automates it quicker.
When I started doing this, I got confused. Like, I do it at the beginning of the school year, and then I forget where the thing was. But all of these are always in the spreadsheet part, not the form part. I would always look for stuff
Right.
the form part is not there. So
Right.
always that spreadsheet part.
I am going to talk about Drive add-ons for Sheets, Docs, and Forms later this afternoon. We don't spend a whole lot of time on Forms because I see 2 that are great. Everything's in the spreadsheet. It's what you do with the data, not what you do with the form usually. Good point.
And daily, you don't know, end of the day,
I'd have to Google that.
You said you could do it.
I want to say 6 p.m., but I don't know why. I know when I do email the next morning, I never know what that is, it's 9 a.m. And I usually will change that. What was the question, Beth?
You had said, can you really tell it not to notify you?
Well, I just never set up a notification, sure.
Okay.
Like Jeff's point, if he's doing an exit ticket and he's got that many kids in, he doesn't want notifications
So
at
you
all.
just would never go to that?
Right.
Got it.
Yep. Yeah, by default, you get no notification when a spreadsheet changes or a form submission is done. It's only if you tell it you want it. Okay? I know I'm hungry. Everybody else hungry?
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop early so we can get some lunch and chat. It's the right time. It's 11:45. I gave you 8 minutes.
This is great.
I figured that was better than 8 minutes of play. I'm going to title my form, okay?
Thank you.
No problem.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I hope. This is the certificate I want to attach.
It's a
PDF.
We need to.
I just dumped it into my Google Drive,
So
but
you're
it
trying
doesn't come up.
Just remember, you're mapping, so you have to be able to manipulate.
Oh, okay.
You can do it. So you copy all the text, dump it into a Google Doc, and
Make
where
my
that
own.
is, change it to name, date, location, and then when it enters, it maps
It will put it on.
because it's a PDF. It can't do it. What you could do though is you could say, all right, as soon as somebody submits a form, send this to them and they can fill it out themselves.
That would be okay with
Yeah,
me,
you can do that.
but I
It's just a
can't.
mail.
I
That's
just.
not using AutoCrat at all. That's just saying,
Oh,
as soon as
that's
somebody's done, email this PDF.
because I tend to have it.
Would that be better? Easier?
That's much easier. It doesn't actually make it personalized, but if that's all you need, that's all you need.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are copying this here? Take credit for this too.
Right. No. So that's gonna be different than what we just learned today.
Yeah, because if you wanted to actually map information like I did,
I got you. Well, I can just send this PDF, but okay, I'll talk to someone later about how to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, some of the stuff when you're in CM, stuff that, once you have a fund, like for that, which was.
Oh.
I want to, also, if I want to do 18 minutes for every child, so because she's going to click off names, that would make it easy for the spreadsheet for me to see who's been tagged. Okay, great. The other thing is, if we have this about entering that we're not sure, but the rain is having problems, and let's, I think it's like floods in the dome are not working, so that's where the printers goes into the house, and she's got the things are like, they're
I'm
not
gonna
even.
find a ticket.
Yes, so does that have to go through the, okay, thank you, because it looks like that may be. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Do you have to be Google certified to help teach the start? Thank you very much.
I love it.
Like, I know what your class.
That is-
And that's great, just gotta get that other than exit. I use. I want this, I did flip it yesterday, and that's like, it's there.
I don't know what this is.
Well, there.
And
That's almost.
Oh, see what you did there? Bringing the big shoulders. Actually, you need to create the video
I know, I guess I do. I'm gonna need help.
now. Bonus points if it goes viral though.
Right. Get called by Nick. So just like each simple little thing, like little ways we could be starting to use these things. It's very helpful too, because I think a lot of like, not kids, but it's major. But just something to do it. I like that it's before school, and this is the end of school. This would be great, but then by the time school starts.
Yeah, you've lost it, or that inspiration's gone, you're on something else.
Right. Is there a time? So the Google Hangouts that I did this summer, it seemed like there was an hour. Is there an hour time limit? There's
Just over an hour. An hour, minute, 45 seconds.
so the woman who was running them, like, we don't have 10 minutes left, and so what do you take away?
I usually try to build in playtime questions and answers and stop the Google Hangout if I'm doing the professional development, so that then that's personalized, it's not on there. People actually feel better about asking questions.
That's not being taped. I liked the
Matter of
one
fact, I
yesterday.
haven't shut this off.
The Mac one yesterday was kind of